Hello, fellow golfers, and welcome to my episode number 10 of Senior to Scratch. This episode is titled Putting on the Fritz. If you grew up in the 80s, you kind of know what that reference is from. So I had visions of a grandiose 10th episode, but that's not going to happen due to life getting in the way, particularly enjoying this short Canadian spring season. What I'm going to do is run through a couple of quick summaries and conclusions from this weekend's golf, which was actually Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So, first off, I'm going to say that I disregarded the Sunday round in terms of stats. I was physically exhausted and stiff and equally mentally fatigued, and I felt my stats would just get skewed based on that, so I simply entered my final score of 81 into the handicap system. As funny as it sounds, golf shape is a real thing, and 54 holes of walking is a lot to start the season, even with my time in the gym. This round included 3 lost tee shots, but it also included 3 birdies and a chip in, so it wasn't all bad. So, that all being said, my first round on Friday, I had some good practice sessions on the prior days and had a great range session before the round. It was weird because I was a little bit nervous, probably because I had heightened expectations of myself after the previous weekend and how good the practice was. I did have a good front nine, though, shooting even par. Outside of a single 3 putt, I went up and down 3 out of 4 times to make pars, and I birdied both par fives. I did do very poorly on the back as the winds picked up, and my up and down game really went cold. And I went 4 bogeys and a double on the back. So I shot 36 41. It's a par 71 for a 77. On Saturday, I had a much better accuracy day. I hit 62% of the fairways, 12 of 18 greens. The huge problem with this round was my complete failure to read the speed of the greens. I started with a 3 putt on number 1 from 16 feet, and I accumulated 4 more 3 putts, so I had 5 in total. I also shot 77 on this day, but from a farther set of tees, it was technically a better round from the differential standpoint. Now that I've got enough rounds to enter into decade golf, I wanted to share some of the key stats. This is stuff that I would never have gotten in the past, not recording really much of anything. And these will be relative to PGA Tour pros. And the other thing I did was I just used my last 4 rounds in this comparison. I excluded the first 2 rounds. As you probably gathered from my previous podcast, it was kind of a fiasco there after 7 months and trying to get all of these stats working. It kind of flustered me a little bit. Anyway, so my average score over these 4 rounds is 76 or plus 5. I'll start with probably the worst, which is strokes gained putting. So I lost 3.33 strokes putting. And so it is quite obvious that my putting needs to significantly improve. In theory, this should be an area where I'm more level with PGA Tour pros because I don't have to worry about swing speed or face control or other factors that are involved in the long game. So I do believe that I have some opportunity to improve here, as this was the worst of my 4 strokes gained categories. Some of the key findings here are my 3 putt percentage from over 31 feet. It's a whopping 38%. That's almost half the time where I'm 3 putting just over 31 feet. This needs to be addressed with some longer ladder drills. I had been working quite a bit on the 10 to 15 foot drills, trying to get the speed there, but I don't really have a lot of space on the putting green to practice ones that are that long. Another frustrating stat regarding putting is having 2.13 putts per green in regulation. So essentially what that means is I'm much more likely to 3 putt than 1 putt. Some of this is obviously due to proximity issues, being too far away from the pin. The fact that I'm hitting a lot of greens this year due to the decade course management system is encouraging. It's just that I need some more practice on the greens. The next category I'll talk about is off the tee. So I am hitting 59% of fairways, which is quite good for me. It's probably among the highest. It is only 4 rounds, so take that with a grain of salt. My strokes gained there are minus 1.77, so it's not too bad relative to the pros. So I'm not really going to work on that particular facet of my game as much. The next one is the approach. So I have hit 62% of greens in regulation, which is quite good. The strokes gained is minus 1.95, still not too bad compared to the pros, but I do believe that because my proximity is quite long, even when I hit these greens, that makes my strokes gained a little bit worse. The most interesting stat that I found combing through them is my proximity to the flag. My worst numbers were from the 50 to 75 yard range, where I lose 0.39 strokes to the PGA Tour average. Now from 151 to 200, as well as 201 to 230, I only lost 0.37 strokes, so I was actually statistically better from the much longer shots than I was from the shorter shots. So in conclusion, I think this should be easy enough for me to practice even on a chipping area that we have at a location on the golf course. I should be able to practice 75 yard and in shots. It seems like I do have a fair number of these closer shots with some of the length I have off the tee and the tees that I play. So because of that, I feel that my trajectory management should be much better. I am having difficulty managing the rollout as well as the trajectory, so I think I can improve considerably here as well this year. The short game stats looked pretty good. I actually gained a little bit on the PGA Tour per round, 0.34 strokes gained. Not sure if I believe that number. But when I looked at my saves, I was 47% on the saves and 50% on sand saves. So, generally doing pretty good there. I don't need to do much work in this area, I don't believe, except for some better trajectory control and chipping around the greens. So that's basically it for the strokes gained statistics. The other thing I will mention is my index increased to 5.5. I did have it in the mid 4s last week, and because I didn't shoot terribly this weekend, the reason is largely from dropping a couple of low scores from last season off the handicap that was perhaps artificially keeping that index low. So now that those are gone, I think I will probably hopefully max out at around this level in the 5s, and with proper practice, hopefully I can get that down for the remainder of the year. Well, that pretty much does it for this week. I thank everyone for listening in and look forward to having you on the next episode of Senior to Scratch.